Is that okay?
Yes.
No, probably not.
It's a bit late now.
Can you share it?
Good afternoon. This is the fifth and final Modern Love Q&A. We have director Simon, who's been with us all week, thankfully. And we've got Phil Snowden, Keith Isles, Kane, Surry, and Jonathan Marks, who are all actors in the film, if you don't know that already. I very much welcome anybody who's tuning in. Very much welcome your questions. I'll be keeping an eye, so feel free to ask any questions you want to the panelists. Keep it clean because it is about modern love. But without further ado, I will start with Simon, as I always have. It's become a tradition, Simon. I know why you wanted to make this film, but for those of us that are tuning in and those on the panel that don't know, what was the genesis for Modern Love, please?
Well, Modern Love started originally with a short story called Sans sous-titres, or as it's English in its English translation without subtitles, and it was written by myself and Benjamin Green, and we went out, we made it, we showed it at a few festivals, and we got a really good response. We won a couple of awards with it as well, and then when we were showing it around, people would come up to us and say, "Oh, we really related to that story, and this reminds me of when this happened to me." And so I then went, "Oh, this is something here." So I made another short story called Digital Romance, which I did with Kane. And it kind of, it sort of blossomed from there. It's sort of, more ideas would come, different ways of shooting, and the story would get bigger and bigger. But I just want to add something else that I'm not added to any of these other live streams, is that originally, before this, I was involved in a project called Habeas Corpus, and it has a similar it had a similar idea that it was going to be 5 directors doing like horror shorts, and it was all about the exploitation of the dead. And it's that one started because Brendan Lonergan had the rights to a short story called The Ghouls, and he'd written a short script for it, but it was like 30 minutes long. So it wasn't a short and it wasn't a feature. And it seemed to be a waste of just doing it as a short. So I suggested like making an anthology. So that kind of seed had been there for quite a while in my mind. So when we did without subtitles and Digital Romance, that's kind of like, I thought, well, it didn't work for Habeas Corpus, but it will work for Modern Love.
Do you think as well, because you told these stories and they are their own sort of contained story unit, it's allowed your filmmaking process to be a little bit more organic? And so as you've made one film, shot it, no doubt edited it, that's finished, then you can move on to the next, and it doesn't make it such an overwhelming project to kind of manage, I suppose, because you're able to do it kind of a bit at a time.
Yes, I mean, it was great that you could just concentrate on each individual story and get it into a shape that it works by itself. And then so when joining it up together, it was a case of thinking of what order they would go in, instead of thinking how editing it as a whole, one big piece. And I mean, I edited my last feature film as well, and you do concentrate on like individual scenes, and then you watch it back as a whole. But I was able to sort of focus on each one, and and with each one, it's like, well, what can I do different with this story that I haven't done with the previous story? And so I had like time to actually explore different things that I don't think if we shot all of these back to back, I would have had the time to.
Were you disciplined enough as well to go, once I've edited that segment, that was it, you shelved it, and you moved on to the next? Or did you, once you've got an assembly of all of these stories on your timeline, did you return back to them and go, actually, I kind of want to tweak this and I want to tweak that?
It's a combination of the two. A lot of the stories were set, I never touched them, and some I went back and went, okay, maybe I'll just change a little bit here, a little bit there, but not much tweaking. I mean, the original release of Sansu Chitra, there was a subtitle in it that got a laugh, which I removed, which Benjamin referred to in our first Q&A about learning French in like 2 months, because they went 2 months later and everybody went, what? You learned French in 2 months? Whoa. So,
no, we all did, yeah.
I took that subtitle out, or title card, or whatever you want to call it, and so that you didn't know how long it took him to learn French. It's just the fact that he did learn French, and it could have been 2 months, it could have been 6 months, it could have been a year. Yeah. So
the result was the same anyway.
Yes.
And Kane, Simon was talking there about the segment called Without Subtitles. You had no dialogue at all.
Yeah.
So how was that? Was that a challenge?
It was a challenge in the lines, definitely. But it was. No, it was. No, what was really nice actually about filming our piece is that because Simon did it in a way where me and Layla got to meet each other, and actually we weren't doing our scenes isolated. We were sort of doing it in the same space, but obviously with clever filming to make it look like different locations. It was nice to have that relationship with the actor, so that we could so that the emotions and sort of the feeling of a relationship was more palpable. So it was lovely actually doing it all through facial expression and just sort of the odd sort of surprised look and things like that. It was really nice. It was a good few days, wasn't it? We had fun.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw last night's Q&A, but Leela was saying that throughout those scenes, she would actually have like an inner dialogue in her head. So instead of actually saying it verbally, she was saying it in her mind. What was your process for doing all the silent scenes?
What's that? Sorry.
What was your process for doing the silent scenes? Were you having a dialogue running in your head?
Yeah, I think so. Definitely having a dialogue in your head, and also trying to create a real. It's that thing of trying to create a real response to something that you know is already coming. And sometimes in jobs that can work much better than others. And it's just trying to find the spontaneity and sort of in what you're doing. But yeah, definitely having that dialogue, and also trying to think how I would have felt if I was meeting someone online as well. I mean, at the time I was actually on dating apps. I think at that time, it was about 2012 when we did it, wasn't it? It was a long time ago, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think I was on dating apps at the time. So I was trying to apply how I felt in conversations with real people, how I could relate that to the story. And and fun enough, in real life, I find dates terrifying. So
well, I mean, that really does come across, doesn't it, in the film? And I suppose there's this kind of a build up of, are you going to is the chemistry going to be there, particularly with your storyline, because this has been kind of building up over a number of months, isn't it, that you've been corresponding? So there's this heightened anticipation that what happens if the chemistry is just not there?
Yeah, exactly. Which is explored in another few stories as well, isn't it? I mean, the story of John, for example, he sort of had quite a few mishaps before he sort of a few frogs before the prince, I think. But so it is. But I think that's a fear, and I think that's quite an interesting foresight as well for even though, I mean, dating and stuff has become far more technical in the last decade. I think now it's kind of accelerated that even further. I mean, a lot of people are now going online to form their relationships, especially now in COVID. And, I mean, people have lost touch with not being able to hug and things like that, and hug loved ones and things. So it's interesting how going forward, that sort of anticipation spark will sort of exacerbate, I guess.
Also, and is it just down to the fact, and I suppose this is a question to everybody really, is it that people are relying more on the digital platforms to date because they're just not going out to, I mean, not COVID related at all, obviously, but people aren't going to pubs and clubs, and that they're not socializing in the same way that we did maybe 20 years ago?
Yeah.
I don't know. Who shall I put that to? Jonathan, I'll put that to you. Why not? I put you on the spot.
No, you're absolutely right. And even before COVID, like, people were just going out less and less because this opportunity to meet people online was there. And the thing about meeting people online is you have such a broader range to like a bigger pool of fish, as it were, to sort of fish from. And especially living in a big city like London, which, this film, as you said, is a love letter to London, which you said before in a previous Q&A. But it's like, especially in a big city, as soon as you're like waiting for that perfect person, and if it doesn't happen, you just ditch you go to the next one. It's so easy to do in a digital society nowadays. So that's what modern romance is, basically.
And really, and Phil, your particular storyline is about not missing that moment. And when the moment arises and you feel that you need to speak about how you feel, do it while you can.
Yeah, exactly. And in the main character, Vivian, who is the main character in my segment, she goes through that. She kind of almost does she goes to the doctor almost on autopilot. That's what she's used to, and then realizes she probably might have made the wrong choice. So that's definitely the situation there. And then at the end, you see she has sort of changed her mind, but you don't know like how that happened. It could have been she met somebody online. It's because that kind of thing is a lot more easier to do nowadays than it was 20 years ago.
Mhm.
I mean, interestingly enough, though, she did pick up her bow at the gym.
Oh yeah.
For want of a polite way of putting it. But I think the particular storyline as well that you're from with Vivian, the unexpected storyline, is that it's about kind of living with the consequences of your actions. Particularly one that, which is about terminating a pregnancy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and on top of that as well, I'll add to that as well, because she's a character who is like in a stressful job. She talks about deadlines. Here I'm talking about another character, but that's basically what it is, and that's another that links to the big city thing as well, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And John, Phil, sorry, going back to what I briefly touched upon there with yourself. Your storyline is kind of very heartfelt, and it's an intimate scene with two friends. I don't mean intimate in a sexual way, but in a conversational way.
Absolutely, and I think, being the age I am as well, that I never came across any of the digital platforms. No. I haven't in my real life. I've been married for 30 years, well, nearly 30 years. I've never had to come across. I never had to use the digital platforms. And coming to somebody, so it was a lot more real. It was a lot more. Do you know what I mean? The story was right there in the beginning. And I always remember Simon saying to me, "We have to go. We have to deliver the final monologue. Everything else is just keeping that monologue buoyant. So anything that goes on before that, two mates having a chat, he's got a new pub, his mate turns up, he's still working in Tesco's or where it was, or was it the Co-op or whatever it was. Yeah. But that Simon wanted that all to be like, we just want to think it's two mates. And then when we hit the corner, it's the first time he said it. It's the first time it's actually come out of his mouth. It's the first time it's actually, it's the first time it's come back to his fore. And Simon was really stressful of, do you know what I mean? It's all about that final monologue. It's all about a man who is, a big man. There's nothing feminine about him at all.
Man's man.
Yeah, sorry?
A man's man.
A man's man. And the breaking down of a man's man, he's kept it all inside for however many years it was. I'm sure he told me when we were filming it. It was in 1986, I think. But yeah, it's all about, he kept on stressing, it's all about let's just keep everything buoyant for that final monologue. And I think it came across really nicely. It was really nicely shot. This is what I look like in colour, by the way. But yeah, I think it was really nicely shot, and it's, and those I think you really captured those little touches, those little points. I'm sure Chris said exactly the same thing when he was on. A nice thing for me also was, because I knew Chris, I was working with Chris on a different project just before this, and with Vivian.
Yeah, were you in the theatre?
Yeah, in the theatre. Yeah, we were both doing Billy Elliot, and and Vivian as well. So when you're in a long running show, you've got to find yourselves things to do outside the theatre as well. Otherwise, you just go insane. So a lot of people, well, me being one of them, Chris being one, and Vivian being one, we look for these projects for short films. We can't get involved in features because we don't know we're in rehearsal. We don't, you can only do like 1-2 days filming here and there. So Vivian was doing a lot of shorts. I was doing a lot of shorts, and we were having a conversation. And she said to me, "Look, there's a part in this. Have a look at this." I had a look at it, loved it, and then I met up with Simon, and I said, "Chris Grahamson would be brilliant in this." Did you come and see Billy Elliot? Did you come and see him play Tony?
No, I didn't, unfortunately. No.
Yeah. We just did a table read, I think. Yeah, and I said Chris Grahamson would be absolutely brilliant in this, and that's how it all sort of came around for me. So I knew Chris. So because I knew him, it seemed that Friends thing was really easy. It wasn't.
It was there. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think as well, Simon, with that particular scene as well, you've got what's wonderful when you see just two actors and it's kind of very still, just acting off each other. Your two scene partners acting against each other and reacting to one another. That's a real thrill to watch, isn't it, on screen?
Oh yeah, I just like the little moments. I mean, because I've seen it so many times, I always love Phil's reaction to Chris when he says, "I wanted to take her up the Eiffel Tower." You're like, "Oi, Kinky!" The Eiffel Tower in France. And you're like, "Oh." It's such a quick moment. I think, I don't know if people catch it, but I do.
Yeah. That's my carry-on sense of humour, though. A very British sense of humour, that is.
I have a Zoom meeting with my family every Monday evening. We all get together, just because my mum and dad have had to be shielding, and that's what they all came on and said. "Oh, up the Eiffel Tower."
Hey, Kinky.
Favourite bit of the whole piece.
And Keith, you were shaken but not stirred in your in your segment. Tell us a little bit more about John 007.
Yeah. Oh, well, I mean, thanks for having me back. Fortunately, well, hopefully no more technical issues today. So thanks for inviting me back. Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting listening to you three guys actually talk about your segments, because obviously what you all had in your situations, whether it was with dialogue or not, was somebody to act against, somebody to partner with and act off of. And 50% of acting is reacting. Obviously, that's part of the job. So yeah, with my situation, it was slightly different, just because obviously everything had to be sort of imaginary and made up. But as Simon has already covered, because technology has changed, as you've forementioned, in the decade since he started this project, that changed quite a bit. So me and Simon originally filmed something in like 2013, but then ended up the stuff you see in the film was shot like 18 months to 2 years ago, because obviously technology and society had changed quite a bit in that time. I find everything that you've all said so far quite interesting from that point of view, because we really did have to adapt and move with the times in just a period of a few years. It had changed. But yes, to answer your question though, Claire, I think the thing that I kind of if you like, my part didn't have, which I'm slightly envious of everyone else, is they did have that interaction. And you know, when you're in a room full of good actors, and I think everybody that's been involved in this film, you know, Simon's picked very well in terms of assembling a really good cast. And as Phil was saying, I find it interesting. I didn't know that you guys knew each other before you, and that now looking at it, that really comes across, you know, that familiarity, and likewise with you, Kane, the fact that you and Layla got some time to sort of spend some time together first, and likewise Jonathan with Vivian and whatever. So yeah, it was a different challenge, but still equally as enjoyable, and I'm still very happy and proud to have been involved in this project. So all good.
But I think what's interesting with the John 007 storyline is that we get this sort of sense of isolation from your character, and actually this camera that you spend a lot of time talking into becomes your friend. It's your sounding board. You might not be getting any reaction back, but there's the relationship with the camera and having to speak to that. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah, I'm actually sorry. The reason I'm laughing is I'm starting to realize how close that is to my real life. You know, since we've been in lockdown and since COVID, you know, starting a YouTube channel and all of this sort of thing, my life is very much me and my camera. So it's a different kind of modern love.
But you cuff the cushions up for it at the end of the night.
Exactly. I put on something new and you know, try and make an effort for that camera.
What do they say? Art imitates life, doesn't it?
What was that?
I said, what do they say? Art imitates life.
There you go.
Yeah, exactly. Are you picturing her a bit like Blade Runner? You know, Blade Runner. You wish. Sorry, Simon.
I was just going to say, and I think Kane will agree with me, that there were some of the scenes that he had to shoot where he didn't have somebody. I know with Skype and everything, you'll see the other person, but because we shot some of that stuff separately in two different locations, the other actor couldn't be there all the time. So Kane had to react to stuff that, you know, wasn't there, or, you know, he's watching something that wasn't even shot yet.
Oh, I think the one that sticks out for me, I don't think Layla was there. I think it was just me and you alone in the room when I was doing the Macho Man stuff.
Yes. Yeah.
I hastily checked my contract after that.
Yeah.
And
did Simon give you a demonstration?
Which I kept asking for. I don't know why.
We have to kind of give credit to the for the score there as well, because the music was fantastic. I mean, throughout anyway, but that particular one, the music does stand out, doesn't it?
Yeah. Neil did a great job. Yeah.
It really did. It kind of travelled the music, didn't it? It's kind of travelled the scene. It sort of really bridged those time gaps. I thought that was what was really nice about it. It really pinned it all together.
Absolutely, and it helped. It I don't know. It just helped with the energy, and I don't know. It felt like I don't know. It's like, you know, like a confusion. I don't know how to explain it really. Maybe I should just not try.
Neil was a ridiculously talented individual, and I mean, I've worked with him loads of times, and he has this way of always, you know, when he speaks to you as a director, he is very passionate about movies also, and he loves references to other movies and all of this sort of thing, and it's just remarkable, because if you have a detailed enough conversation with him, which I'm sure Simon did, you know, you do end up with exactly what you want without knowing that was what you want. It's amazing, you know.
Yeah.
Well, no, I was going to say that when Neil was on Monday's live cast, he was talking about the fact that he had two different types of instruments going for each character. that each character had their own instrument going. So it was a combination of those two meeting, and the whole also that kind of computer sounding kind of music. I mean, there's a very like technic kind of sound to it. I mean, it just, you know, that whole it reminds me of like the music out of Brazil, which sounds like typewriters. You know, it goes. It's very similar to that, I find. So I can't do too much.
Did you give that as a reference, Simon, when you were speaking?
No, I did not. No.
Oh, interesting.
No.
Okay.
I don't think I did.
Long time ago, eh?
Yeah. The one thing that the kind of the continuous thread through all of this sort of 5-night marathon Q&As is God, I completely lost my thread. Is the importance of how everybody has helped each other out. Keith, you've introduced Simon to people. Simon, you've introduced people. Phil, you know, everybody's kind of all kind of chipped in to help Simon out with this. Is that a sort of a common thing with indie filmmaking, do you think? And that's what keeps it strong?
Well,
who should I give that to?
Quite often, if I'm ever cast first, so if I'm cast as the lead, then quite often when I read the script, I can sort of see other actors playing the other parts. So I will a lot of the time say to the director, "Look, I've got someone, your choice, obviously, but I've got someone in mind to play this other part." And 9 times out of 10. They'll probably go, yeah, okay, fine, yeah, that's exactly the right person. So in indie film, I do find that quite a lot. Certainly if I'm cast first. If they're casting off me, I like to have those people that I know.
Yeah.
It's a strange thing, but obviously if it's not being cast off me, then I don't say anything. So
well, I think. Yeah. I mean, filmmaking is it's hard to get anything made, as we all know, as we've all kind of gone out and done all our own projects in the past, and then what you find at the end of it is if you've got a team of great people to work with, you want to keep working with them, because those good people who are dedicated and have got everything that can come and bring their game, no matter what the budget is. Those people are few and far between, and you want to keep them close, don't you, really?
And you trust them as well.
And trust, yeah, exactly. I mean, Keith, you probably found that yourself in your sort of filmmaking capacity as well.
Yeah. I mean, it's that sort of thing. If you meet somebody that is good at their job and talented, but also that you get along with, why not recommend them for other things? And Simon was very much, there's certain roles I need to get filled. If you know of anyone, if you can help with this. And I know certainly from my point of view, if somebody rings me up and says, do you want to get involved in a film? I'm delighted. I'm obviously going to be sending Phil an email after this. So, I try to sort of do the same. If I've worked with some people and they've been good and they're good at their job, but they're also a nice person and fun to work with, then absolutely recommend them. And that's really what keeps the low budget independent film world alive, isn't it? We rely on that stuff. So I think it's great.
Was there anything to do with each of your own individual storylines that really kind of put you to the test? I'm going to put that to Kane.
I think, as I mentioned before, I think it was kind of like thinking about dates and sort of how you interact online and things like that. I don't know. I think because I at the time I was using the I say dating app Grindr, and that's kind of like
would you call that a dating app, or would you call it? I know, I think
I knew we'd met, he's saying, yeah.
Sorry, Kane. We've got 5 minutes up.
Oh, I've got a red.
Sorry, I didn't mean to make you blush.
But it's interesting you say that, because I think conversations conversations online on those apps are completely different to an established built up relationship that you have with other people. And I think it's interesting how much especially with like anonymity, I don't know if I can ever say that word right, how much you can put and how much you can present of yourself and how much you can put out there. And like a lot of, as you spoke about earlier, about like dating apps and stuff like that, I always call it like a takeaway culture. Like you can do everything on your phone now. So everything is kind of a lot more immediate, but it's also a lot more disposable. And I think relationships and stuff like that become like that. So it wasn't a particular challenge in the piece. It was just something I sort of observed. But yeah.
Quite hit me with me in Keith's role, that he was just literally talking to us as we're all talking now, doing that.
Yeah.
And that to me was one of the biggest images that I took away from the film. Was, oh, hi guys, yeah. Oh, yeah, no.
Yeah.
It was just that, exactly what you've just said. It's just that throwaway. Do you know what I mean? I've just got people who don't like it, and no one's looking at art, no one's looking at anything. Everyone's just looking at the hair.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's a real big. It was a real nicely caught image that I thought. Anyway.
And actually, to sort of carrying on from that, the whole thing of it, I think it starts this whole new anxiety. I mean, I don't know. I've never done internet dating. It's just not my thing at all.
Yeah.
But for me, watching your one is that. What am I trying to say? That it brings this other anxiety, because when they're removing you from their list, and you're like, well, I wonder why they've done that. Well, anything could be going on in their lives, but you think, oh, they just don't like me. So it brings that. To me, it just adds to the anxiety.
Yeah, definitely.
Why would you want to put yourself through that?
John 007 in his bit actually addresses that, doesn't he?
Exactly.
These two ladies, have, but it could be anything. We take it so personally. It's just a digital thing. It's a digital, 2D kind of representation of somebody, which isn't always true of who they are. We've all been there. I really felt for John 007. I really liked that.
I have to ask as well. So, if John 007, if you'd have stayed in that room with the guy smoking weed, like, this isn't a fantasy or anything. I'm asking genuinely.
I'm curious as well. Actually, I want to know the answer.
Yeah. So was there actually a lady? Was there actually? Because I was trying to grasp what the connotations were there. So was there actually a lady in the other room? Were they just trying to take money from you? What was going on?
To be fair, that's probably a question that's better aimed at Simon, because the reason I say this is because all of these scenarios, even though I think Simon mentioned on the Q&A on Monday, which obviously I didn't have the best connection that night, but Simon mentioned that some of my dialogue had been somewhat improvised, and we were, oh, well done, you improvised. But to sort of caveat that, I was improvising, but around specific scenarios that Simon wanted to, tell this story with. So sorry, I'm rambling.
No, you're not. No, you're
Simon.
not.
That's probably a question that Simon can answer better than me.
Well, the whole situation happened to a friend of a friend, and because I was like,
yeah, right.
Yeah, right. Simon.
I mean, in the story, you were the guy on the table, weren't you? You were the guy.
Exactly.
Well, from what I know was that he was talking to this girl online, and she wanted to meet up with him, and suggested coming round to her place. So he turned up, he got in there, and she was nowhere to be seen, but her flatmate was there, and He's, as I say, smoking a spliff, drinking away, and he's just like, I do not know what the fuck I'm going on here. And he's a Scottish guy as well, and so you imagine they could quite easily take care of themselves, and even him was feeling like creeped out by this. So yeah, he made his excuses and left. So I don't know the conclusion to that story. It's it's left ambiguous. I mean, it could have been anything. I mean, she could have literally just been in the shower getting ready.
Yeah.
Or it could have been that there was somebody else in the flat that, when they thought the time was right, jump out and lock the door or whatever. So
it's Modern Love 2 can show all of those. It's like a Marvel what if.
I think from a storytelling perspective, it really works because we don't know what the answer to that question is.
Yeah.
Neither does John's. So we're with him. So we have to sort of move on like he does.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and ultimately, whatever it was, it's completely spooked him out, and enough for him to sort of scarp her as quickly as possible. His kind of spidey sense was sort of tingling.
And then as a result of that, he distrusts the digital, the digital platform for dating.
Exactly.
His first step of distrusting it anyway.
No, absolutely. And that was exactly the journey that Simon, well, because we talked a lot about this prior to actually shooting anything, and that was exactly the journey that Simon wanted me to take the audience on with that. So I was trying to make it in my head as real as possible, but obviously as real as possible from a completely manufactured situation. So but yeah, I mean it's all I know in that one, I think we did it a couple of times because we filmed it in a park and there was some noisy people, and London, we're in the middle of central London, and there was one of the times where Simon said we couldn't use the take anyway because it got messed up, but he did say to me, I want you to be even more disturbed. He said if you're doing like a 5 at the moment, take it up to 8. I really, really want to see that you're massively disturbed by this. So I was like, okay, fine. And I guess that's what's ended up in the film. So,
I still love the line. That was fucking weird.
Again, that was just my inner monologue, because obviously you described this scenario and I was trying to, as you do, you're trying to sort of really place yourself in that, and all I thought was, how excited was how excited was John 007
Freudian slip.
Yeah, exactly. But before going, I was becoming the character. Come on, before going into that flat, and for something so odd, that story is so bizarre. I mean, it really is bizarre story, to happen, and just to come away and you just sort of think, well, why am I bothering with this? And so, I'm glad it worked. It obviously worked. So
it definitely did. So, Simon, when you kind of started on the project, was your antenna out then? Trying to find kind of like all these stories. If your friends were talking to you, did you sit there thinking, "Oh, actually, write that one down"?
No. Well, it's my antenna's always out for stories, so. I kind of like, I'm just open to whatever comes my way. I'm always collecting ideas for stories, and I don't know, I think this goes back to childhood where I used to imagine so much. My imaginary life was very fertile. I used to daydream in class so much. I'd be the kid in school that the teacher would Mr. Aitken, do you want to answer this question? What? So I've kind of been open to that. But then when I'm doing a project like Modern Love, then my antenna is open for, stories based around what I'm doing. And of course, the other thing as well, as I said, without subtitles, people were coming up to us and sort of saying, oh, that just reminds me of this relationship and that relationship. And it was that whole relatability about that story and all the stories subsequently after that one, because it was all, people sort of connected with it because they're all done in a realistic way. There's nothing Hollywood about these stories at all. This could happen to anybody. Anybody could have that conversation, and that's what my goal with these stories was to have that, say, well, this is not the truth, but as truthful as I could be about, dating and relationships and love.
And I think from a visual point of view as well, the film is stripped back and pared down, and it makes it you see kind of London and all of these relationships in a much more kind of raw and realistic way. There's no polish, is there?
That's right. Yes. I didn't want to have any fantasy scenes in it. Even though, funny enough, the animation, there is a dream sequence in it. But that was the beauty of that story, because the idea of seeing somebody in the street and imagining what your life would be like with that person. If you found them attractive, you see a pretty girl on the street, I wonder what it'd be like to date her, or seeing like a whole life with that person. And then, and of course, and then that moment's gone. And the thing is, you don't know that person at all. And that's the lovely thing about, spoilers, nobody's seen it, that the person she's looking at is blind, that he's not actually looking at her, he's just, I don't know, just looking in that direction. And what her dream of about what it'd be like with him was completely wrong, because that's not who he was.
And I'll put the question to Jonathan. What was it like working with Simon? Was he a great collaborator? Sorry, Simon, but it's talking about you right while you're there. But was Simon quite refreshing to work with?
He actually was. I mean, again, it was many years ago. I actually don't even know how many years ago it was. But what I remember is, first of all, I remember meeting all those people, and it's always the good projects you work on that you remember everybody. So what I do remember is the fact that I just I came in, and Simon and I had met through a mutual friend, Darren, who is got a casting director credit on this particular piece. He connected us, and I just went in, and it was like the most comfortable I've ever had. I know that, like, I didn't really have a good look at the script, but there wasn't many lines for me. So, it's really funny to I just ad-libbed the sort of interaction with a pretend Excel spreadsheet on the computer with Vivian looking over my shoulder, and I was just sort of saying whatever. And I remember when I watched the finished film, I put on subtitles just because I was curious. Someone actually went through and like turned up the volume and listened to me and like actually typed out every word that I said. I thought that was really good. Was it Simon? Was it? Did you do that?
Yeah. And I got it wrong a few times. I literally, I had to go back and redo them. It was like, oh wait a minute, that's not what he said.
I didn't know what I was saying either, but it worked. It was vital to the story, wasn't it, Simon?
Yeah. Oh, very important. Very important.
So what I remember is just it being such an easy sort of an easy job to do. So thanks, Simon, and I still remember everybody that I worked with on that day as well.
And Phil, when your particular piece, and you have got that kind of monologue, it is quite heavy. So when you've kind of had a day of doing that, is it hard to kind of let that go? Is there a residual kind of like?
Not really. I don't ever feel that when I come off a shoot that I feel like that. But going back to Simon, he was very good at allowing us to play the scene out. He was very eager to see how the scene would play out even before he'd said anything, and then went back and refined what he wanted. But I do remember one little thing that I didn't want him to have taken it to the Ivy. I didn't think that. I don't know if you remember this conversation, Simon.
Oh, okay. No, I don't. But
no, but I was going, can I say harvester? And you would go, no, you're taking it to the Ivy. You saved up all your money. But I wanted it to be like, you know, a crap place. It's somewhere I thought was expensive, but it was actually crap. I hope there's nobody that works at the harvester listening. He kept saying, no, you took it to the Ivy. You saved up all your money. I want it to be that you saved up all your money. Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, I wanted to be as equal as the taking her up the Eiffel Tower.
He could have said, I took her up the Brewers Fair.
Yeah. But yeah, I think in one of the takes I tried to put it in there, and he just stopped and went, no, Ivy. So even though he allowed us as actors to breathe and become the characters, there were certain like trigger points. And when you watch a film, you can absolutely they were the trigger points for the thing. But what was nice for me also is I drink in that pub. So not only did I have one of my best friends playing opposite me, I knew the surroundings. I knew what everything was. I've been behind that bar. I knew how it worked because it's only open at weekends. It's only open Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Oh. So when Simon was looking for a bar to shoot in, I went, well, it's free all week.
Yeah.
So not only did I know the person I was acting next to, I knew my surroundings as well, which really helped me, I think.
Yeah, absolutely, because it's a very kind of natural performance as well, isn't it? Really. And Kane, how did you find working with Simon? Was he a slave driver?
No, he was lovely. No, he was absolutely lovely because it was nice as well. Because you knew Layla before, didn't you, Simon?
Yes, that's right. I'd worked with Layla before.
It was lovely, and there was never like, even though I knew that was, you're always really inclusive as the three of us. I always felt it was always three of us working together, which was really, really nice. And Simon took me on a trip to the London Eye to film, and he paid, which I thought was very good.
That was.
But it was lovely actually. It was like, and similar as well, the sort of the restaurant at the end that we go to, I was actually working in that restaurant at the time, so it was really weird sort of bringing two worlds together. So looking at it, watching it again last night, I was like, oh my god, I worked there 8 years ago, and even the staff member who was working at the time used to be a former colleague, and it just brought back a lot of old memories. So it was a really nice, it was a really nice filming experience. I thought it's very comfortable.
It always helps when a space for an actor is actually really, really important, isn't it?
It really is.
Well, that's it. I mean, I want everybody to sort of be as comfortable as they can be. You know, I've worked on some shit, and I've heard of some horrible situations that actors have been put through, and you know, not on my watch. I ain't having that. No. You know, a friend of mine for a feature, he jumped into a river, and they didn't film him for like half an hour afterwards. That was just like, you know, yeah. And it's just like, no. If I'm going to make somebody jump in the river, I make sure that the camera's rolling and it's ready to go, and there's somebody standing there with a towel ready to, you know, so that they can dry off when they get out. You know, and if it's, well, I wouldn't make somebody, jump into a big river, but if I did, I'd make sure there was like a safety dive. You know, you just think of all those things that, you know, to make it as safe as possible, comfortable as possible, because at the end of the day, there's nothing worse than trying to, you know, act, direct, camera operate under stressful situations. I mean, there is stress. We have stress on set all the time, but without that added pressure of, you know, just things that could have been sorted out beforehand.
Yeah, exactly. We've had a comment come through. Brooke Marks, she wishes to say hello to everybody. Do we know a Brooke Marks? Say hello. Brooke, have you got a question for us? Or for the gentleman, I should say, not for me. See if they come through with any questions. And taking your own kind of storylines out of it, watching the film, was any of the other storylines, you know, was there a particular one that stood out for you that you enjoyed? Let's go, Jonathan.
Well, Like I mentioned, I really like John 007's bit. I think Simon really did a good, like, it was like it separated each story really, really well, because you watch this tiny segment and you go through this, you get these emotions, you go through this emotional, as the story goes, and then you check back in with John, see how he's going. And for me, it was really like I felt for John so much. I just say I knew what was going to happen. Because like Phil mentioned this before, how the digital age, how we date nowadays, is kind of a generational thing. And I know, sorry Keith, but like, because you're maybe an older generation trying to interact with this digital age, and you're doing so with like vlogging, which is what the character is doing, and yet you're trying this thing, and I'm just like, oh, I feel so bad because it's not gonna work this first time. He's gonna feel really bad about it, and I was so worried for him. But I'm really glad that he sort of got to the end and it was like had a happy ending. So I didn't know, because a lot of the other stories in this film don't end well, and so I was genuinely like, is this gonna be like a happy ending, or is this gonna be like a sort of a bittersweet, this is how love goes? Because modern love isn't always roses, is it?
No.
So I think that's my favorite. That's my
it's more Guns and Roses.
There's a really nice blend, like Kane was saying that in his segment. I apologize, I don't really know what all the segments are called, but when Kane was doing his segment, and it was all done through body language, and certainly the two old couple, I don't know the segments, it was all done through body language, and then you have others, certainly like mine, which was dialogue driven, and then you had, do you know what I mean? And there was a really nice blend running through the film where I'm actually just watching people now, you know what I mean? And then you get the French section where he's absolutely like absolutely telling her off for what's happened. I'm getting rid of her. I don't want to swear. Getting rid of her, and then you come right down to these two old people are just falling out of love. And it's just, it was really nice watching that journey through the film.
Yeah, absolutely.
I love that one with the older couple, because as soon I was making notes as I watched it in preparation for this, as soon as I saw them on screen together, I just wrote when the frost sets in, and then I thought I knew this was going from the start. You could tell that they were sat together, but they were so far apart, and then at the end it was just, oh, well, the divorce. All right.
I mean, I said it sort of during the Q&A actually, because for me, when watching that, we've seen it so many times. You're sat in a restaurant and there's always that couple that they're just not communicating. They're not talking, and you just think, what an empty, lonely place that relationship must be when you don't even want to speak. You don't even want to have a conversation with that person anymore. It's we've all seen it. It's so relatable, isn't it, really?
In the pub, and we got both sat there with half a mile each, just staring in front of themselves, they're just staring and just finish their half a mile and go home. It's like, come out for.
I know, no, exactly. Yeah, just a change of scenery. And Keith, for you, what was one of the nice stories for you?
I mean, for me, it's really hard to pick one out, because what the thing that always impressed me with this project from the start was that Simon was trying different narratives and different aesthetics and different styles throughout, and even on a mixture of even different capture technology. So in some respects I was amazed that it gelled together as well as it did. So I think all of the stories have something about them that's unique and enjoyable. The performances, as I said, across the board were fantastic, but I think the thing that this whole thing has done well, apart from being an experimental anthology with all of these styles, is in terms of love, which is universal. You did capture a lot of relatable but different examples. You know, you've got, as I said, the thing with Kane, and then you had the older couple, and as Jonathan pointed out, you've got me somewhere in the middle. But you know, so you've got all of these, because it does affect everyone at different points of their life and in different ages and stuff. So I can't, I'll be honest, I know this sounds like a bit of a non-answer, but I can't really separate one out, because I for me they all worked. And when I watched it on last Sunday when this was released, for me it was just an absolute joy, because the only one I had seen was without subtitles. The rest of the films I'd not seen. And it was quite funny, because, you know, I was like, okay, there's my bit. What's next? You know, I wanted to get on to the next film, the next stylistic choice. And of course, you know, I was there all the time thinking, is there anything where Simon wrote dialogue?
I've had a comment come in, May 570. I like that John was hesitant to go with a woman who contacted him, almost like breaking the tradition of man chases girl. There you go.
Yeah.
The one thing that I haven't spoken about at all this week, which we've done a lot of in all of the sessions, is laugh. And the great thing with this film is that all throughout it there is humor, isn't there?
Yeah.
How important was that you always, even in sort of the darkest moments, we all kind of find a sense of humor, don't we?
Yeah, you need that.
Yeah. I mean, I'm even though a lot of this was written seriously, it's, you know, if there's a chance for a bit of humor, then I'm always happy to have it there. I guess it's a bit like my like myself. I mean, I do, you know, I like laughing. I like humor. I don't want it to be deadpan. I didn't want it to be just like one tone. I mean, I just, you know, what I went with what people gave me, and there was humor in that. Then I, you know, I just said thank you, give it to me.
It's just coming back to me now that when I was watching the film with my wife, I didn't actually think she was watching it, so I thought I was watching it on my own.
Oh, okay.
And when he realised, this is probably nothing to what we're talking about, but when he realised, when he'd learnt his French, and he realised the intake of breath that came from, like
yeah.
No, she's yeah. You know what I mean? He was so he found the right person, and it was just like, I'm even going to learn her language.
And interestingly enough, he had written that with a sense of coming from a sense of being suspicious and not trusting her. And I thought, I'd interpreted it, and again, this is how film is open to interpretation, that he was learning the language to be romantic.
Yeah.
And so to surprise her. So how did it, what did you think then when you saw it? How did you read it?
How did I read it?
Yeah.
I read it. He was doing it for her. I didn't.
Yeah, that's how I did.
Me too.
I thought, she's not going to learn English, so I'm going to have to learn French.
No, don't believe what Ben says. He's just winding you up. He did. It was.
Was he?
Yeah. No. He was. He wasn't because he was suspicious. He was doing it because he wanted to be with her more.
Surprise her. Yeah, that's what I thought.
If he was that suspicious, I mean, yes, there is a little bit of suspicion when he asks who Olivia is in that phone call.
Yeah.
But that's a suspicion that, you know, any kind of couple would have if the other person is talking a lot to another person. But no, he did that from, you know, to be closer to her. Yeah, so I know he's gonna watch this now. He's like, no, but
but you're the director in it's your vision.
If that was his intention, that wasn't my intention. My intention was from a romantic point of view.
Yeah.
He was doing it as a surprise.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Well, that's how it comes across. I think.
Yeah, because that moment when he finds out, he was about to say something to her in French. He was going to show her that, hey, you know, you think I've been like lazy and not bothered. I actually have been. I've been doing it secretly, and here we go. And suddenly, because of what he's learned, learning a different language, he finds out, the truth.
I don't know. Yeah. The irony of that. I mean, we've lost Kane.
Yeah, shame.
So hopefully, we've got like a few minutes left. So I'm going to ask everybody, like I have done all of these nights. I don't know what I'm going to do with myself the weekend, Simon. At 7 o'clock. But I'd like to ask it. What did you get from being in the film, and do you have a specific memory that you'll take away with you? So I'll put that to Jonathan, please.
Well, what I remember, like I mentioned before.
Welcome back, Kane.
Was
it Tinder?
It's fine. He wore a mask. Don't worry.
That's fine. Sorry, Jonathan. I'm all yours again.
What I remember is how easy the shoot was when I showed up. It was just the most comfortable thing I ever did, in terms of it, short film. And obviously, like, it was many years ago, and I'm still in touch with Simon and all these people that I met through there. I still sort of like some people you don't talk to every day, but you still know who they are, like on social media, whatever. Like I do that more with these people than I do with like a theater show that I did 5 years ago that I'd never speak to ever again. So it's just the connections that I remember, and I still hold as much as I can.
You hold dear. Phil, for you?
Me too. Exactly the same thing. It was how easy it all was, and how Jonathan Simon is one of the few directors that just allows the actors to breathe. Just so much so, I seem to remember I was shooting a music video about 3 months later, and the first person I found was Simon said, "Can you shoot this music?"
Oh, that's right,
yeah, end the line, and absolutely freezing, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah.
February or something, but exactly the same as who do you choose? Who do you get a choice of who is going to be playing opposite you? Exactly the same as Jonathan was the why do I keep saying Jonathan? Simon. Sorry.
They've got the same beard.
He was the first person I found because I knew it would be easy. I knew he would take on he would take on and improve the visions I had for it. So that's what I sort of take away from it.
Fantastic. Just before we go on to I'll go to Keith next, but May 570 says it was great that the audience learns French as Ben does, and we get subtitles towards the end. There we go. Yeah. Thank you for that, May. And Kane.
Yes. I agree with May. Sorry, I agree with May 570.
Sorry, yes, exactly. Sorry, Keith. I went to Kane. It's been a long week. Forgive me, everyone. In a nice way, but it's been a long week. So I'm falling apart the scene. It's going so well.
Almost champagne, Claire. Don't worry.
We're nearly there, Claire. We're nearly there.
Like do 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 do. Sorry, Keith. What will you take away with you?
It is me. All right.
I'm so sorry.
No, that's all right. But first of all, to May 570's comment, and I totally agree. It's great that the audience is with the character, and we don't sort of find out until he does. So again, all intentionally done by the filmmaker. I know, Simon. So that was good. No, what I take away from it, I mean, for me, it's lovely to act. It's lovely to have different challenges. I've got another filmmaker friend who's always very loyal to me and cast me in a lot of his films. And I usually end up playing sort of bad guys in his films. I'm usually sort of the suited villain or something like that, and a nasty piece of work. So this was obviously a different challenge. So I'm grateful that Simon gave me that opportunity. What the thing it's not so much about what I've taken away from it, but it's what I kind of hope with it. Okay, and that is, as I said, for me, it was very much me and Simon were the film crew for my scenes. It wasn't like the other stories were all sort of made in a sort of traditional film manner, regardless of the style. And like, the three guys on here, Kane, Jonathan, and Phil, I've not met any of these people before tonight's, video cast. And the same with a lot of the other cast and crew members. So although I know some of them from previous lives, I'm sort of looking forward to that. And I know this was sort of Simon's dream. He wanted to have a cast and crew screening of this so that we could all see it on a big screen in an environment together. And I still hope, even though it's on Amazon Prime now, I do hope that we can get that someday. And I'd like a chance to see not only my old friends that were in this film, but also the cast and crew that I don't know. And I'd love to get to meet and congratulate everyone, because I seriously major impressed as a filmmaker myself as well, major impressed with this, how it's turned out, and the different styles and the level of quality, when literally working with no budget or time to do anything. Well, maybe not time, because it's been 10 years, but you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
So I know that doesn't really sort of answer your question, but this is what my hope is, that the film will get legs, it will get an audience, and we'll all get to meet and celebrate its success.
Yeah, I think that's a lovely way of putting it, really. And Kane, what have you taken away with you from working on the film?
Well, it was one of my I left drama school the year that we shot it, so it was one of my first film jobs. So it was really lovely work doing, like going into a new environment and going into that sort of big, sort of scary world, and having a bit of nurturing in such a safe space. So sort of taking away, knocking down a lot of the walls of sort of like elitism and sort of behavior on set, and just learning that you can just be comfortable and people are nice, and and also just it was just really nice to go into that environment and being very green, but sort of being very welcomed at the same time as well. It was really nice.
Oh, that's lovely. That's really nice. And Simon, I will leave the last words for you, director, writer, producer. What have you taken away with you from this whole really experience, not just, making the film, but, everybody that has come back this week and, that have wanted to kind of speak to you and congratulate you for being a part of it, and they still want to talk to you, so it must have been all right. No, but really, you can see everybody's very enthusiastic.
I feel really humble, to tell the truth. I had no idea how this film people were gonna take it. I mean, it was like I thought maybe people might like one or two of the stories, and they'd be like, "Oh, I didn't like that story. I didn't like that story," or they want to get through Keith's bits quickly. Sorry, Keith. Poor Keith. So just to hear how people's responses to it and how it's affected them and how they relate to it it just makes it feel so worthwhile, because when I've been making this, it has kind of been in a vacuum. I mean, nobody sort of saying, "Oh, well, that's good," or "That's bad," or everything was done by myself. I didn't have a producer, I didn't have distributors, there was nobody telling me how to change it or what to do, which is a good thing, because that means that it lives or dies by myself, my decisions. But then you also don't get a sense of what people think of it, and so it was kind of like nerve-wracking to release it out there and see what people actually thought of it. And I am really grateful and humbled by people's responses to it. You know, I didn't think it was going to do, you know, as well as it has. And, you know, and everybody on this shoot has stepped up and helped me so much, you know, from just agreeing to be in it, to, you know, suggesting other actors, providing locations, even things like Keith actually helped me with a few camera tests. I mean, I wanted to find a rig I could use for shooting all the cab scenes. So he came round with his car to my place, and we, you know, we went round the block several times, and I tried all these different camera rigs and stuff just to find one that would work really well in a moving car. And I think, I don't know if many people would have done that. I don't know. But it, you know, as I say, so many people, you know, have just stepped up to help me with this.
Just showed their friendship.
Yeah,
Just showed their friendship, haven't they, really?
You know, as I say, it's just I'm still, you know, stunned by it.
Well, you know, praise where, you know, praise is due, basically, you know, or credit where credit is due, whichever expression you want to use. We've got one more comment just come in. Well done all. I felt for each character, says Sharon Marks. So thank you for that, Sharon. And thank you. Do you know Sharon Marks, do you?
I do. She's my mother. Yeah.
Oh, there you go. I didn't even look at the name. Oh, well done, Sharon. Thank you. And where would we be without our supportive mothers? That's what I would say.
We're not anything from Snowden.
On that very positive note, we should say good night. Phil, thank you very much. Keith, Kane, Jonathan, and Simon, well done. Wishing you the very best of luck with continued success of the film. You can, of course, see Modern Love on Amazon Prime. And from me, Claire Bueno, your moderator of 5 days, it's been a joy. And thank you for having me. And see you next time, I suppose. For the next film.
Claire deserves a round of applause.
Well,
I mean,
thank you.
Really, thank you, Claire. I mean, seriously.
My pleasure. Oh, no, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure, and I hope you've enjoyed it. Take care, all. Bye. Lots of love. Bye. 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 Bye.